What is going on, everybody? I want to take this morning really to do a complete breakdown on how I style my mustache. So we'll go through adding heat protectant, adding the heat itself, and then go into adding some wax, and we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, we'll start with some heat protectant. I use this Aussie Total Miracle heat protectant spray, if it'll focus on me, from Walmart. Um, some companies I shop from don't have a heat protectant, so I just kind of squirt some into my hand, toss it back and forth between the two till it's kind of dispersed a little bit, and then I'm just going to start adding it to the mustache, making sure I coat my hairs pretty good. I enjoy having the mustache, and I really don't want to burn it off before I can even apply the wax, so we want to protect it while we got it. And today, since I'm going to be using some Copper John's Sundance wax, I don't need a blow dryer to heat the wax up itself. Although the lid got stuck, so I have a whole chunk of wax there. We'll just kind of pop that back in. We're just going to let the flat iron heat up. We don't want to be applying nothing to the mustache because it's not going to help us. So while that's heating, I generally make sure I have my workstation set up. So like I said, we're going to have the wax. I normally keep that on my right side. And then the comb I use to pull the wax through and kind of push it deeper in the mustache. I keep that right next to it as well. So now it's got some warmth. I go ahead and pull that mustache off. And I'm going to kind of pinch it and just pull it across. I'm not holding in one spot for very long. I'm just applying the heat to the hairs. Because what I'm going to do in a second is once the hairs are toasty, I'm going to start curling it up. Keep my hairs separated right there. And you'll feel the hair getting warm. You don't want it hot. You just want it warm. So now that my hairs are pretty warm, I'll go one more. Just kind of pull it back. I'm going to start the curl. So grabbing my hairs and starting to bend them into the kind of big handlebars I like to wear. And while it's kind of in that position, you just want to hold it. I'll take my flat iron and kind of pinch that curl just to apply that heat in that position. And you'll see it's already starting to hold its shape. But with Copper Johns, they have just a little rectangular tin, and I take the pick that they provide and I just kind of start scraping off roughly what I want to be about a pea-sized amount. I don't want too much. I find that it can be just wasteful. I'm wiping a lot of it off, or it's just kind of clogging hairs, and then at the end, it looks more crusty. You can really see the wax shining through, and I try and keep about the center part of my mustache as natural as I can get it. So then I just take that pea-sized amount. You can see it's maybe a little bit bigger, but you don't want to start with too much, because if you don't have this much hair and this much volume, even if I had a thinner mustache, I probably wouldn't use this much, just because you don't need it to coat all of the hairs. The reason I put so much is so I can kind of push it deeper in the mustache, and that the core of my mustache will have wax and hold the shape. I find that if I don't do that, then it starts to droop and fall pretty soon after I'm done styling. So now that I have the wax kind of rubbed in between my 3 fingers, I take 2 fingers down, starting at the nose, and I kind of comb it out. Then I pick it up, grab my thumb to scrape the inside of that mustache. Now you could style from here, but if you look, you can see where the wax kind of starts, and then like right here, it doesn't connect super well. So when I take my comb, I can push it behind all of the hairs and just pull that comb straight through. And then it starts to line all of those hairs back up, but now they're coated in wax. And I always go backside, front side, or front side, back side. I hit both of them. And then from there, I will re-scoop my hairs and start pulling them together. Like I said, after I want it to look natural. So towards the ends. And then I'm going to take the leftover wax on my hand. I like having clean hands every time I apply wax. I just take an old towel and I wipe off my fingers. And then when I have company over, I always tell them just not to use the purple towel because that is strictly mustache wax and hand drying. A little smaller than that other side. That's more of that pea-sized amount I was talking about, if it will focus. Of course not. But that's about how much you want. And I just take it between those three fingers I am going to rub it between. And I just kind of smush it, twirl it around, play with it like it's one of those rubber erasers until it really gets warm, and then it'll start kind of tacking to your fingers. And at that point, you know, like right now it's slowly getting there, but I'm going to play with it just a little bit more. So now you'll see it kind of starts tacking to like my fingers up here and then my thumb. And then from there, you can kind of rub it between those fingers. And then while it's still warm, you want to apply it to that mustache. The warmer the wax, the easier it's going to be to apply to the hairs. Now that it's in there, you can see this side compared to this, and it's going to hang lower. Just all of that wax is kind of bogging down here, and it's not dispersed throughout that mustache. Doing that same thing, I'm just going to pull through. I'm going to go one more time. I hit a knot. And you might have a knot in your mustache and it might catch. Just remember, kind of slowly work through it. Don't be yanking those hairs out. And then from here, I'm going to do the same thing as that other side. I'm just going to get those hairs in line the way I want them, curled the way I want it to kind of start curling, especially here at the end. Kind of start lower, and then I start applying that wax out. And you might lose a hair or two, but if the wax is decently warm, you find that you won't be pulling as many hairs out. You'll just kind of have that nice natural shedding. You'll see I have some crazy hairs that want to give me a hard time from time to time. And from here, I take this top part and I just kind of roll it back so it makes a nice straight line, almost like I'm going for an English style. That's just how I style my handlebars. That helps to see which way that curl at the ends won't delay, so I know how to twist and fight and get that hair twisted just right. And then from there, I hold it and push up. And as I push, I kind of push and pull out, and that gives it that little bit of curve we're looking for. And once I get it up, I just start pulling it into a circle, block out my vision, and doing that same thing. I kind of hold it in position, work those hairs just like I want them, just rubbing the wax in and doing that same thing. We're just going to apply it to those hairs, trying to catch any of those crazy stragglers that want to jump off and give you a hard time throughout the day. Pulling them in tight, waxing them down, locking them in, smushing these hairs out into a nice point. Not quite your typical imperial style, but I like having my own little flair on it. That's what makes it my mustache. And it's what seems to work best for me, not necessarily for everybody. Doing that same thing where I kind of start that curl, bending it up, getting it to lay just where I want it, and then I always hook up top. That way I can see through my hand and get that curl set in just right. And that is how I style with my Copper Johns. If I can grab my tin. Copper Johns Sundance Wax.